And as a realtor, and this is especially important for new realtors, you need to listen to this. Never, ever, ever be the first one up or down the stairs. Never, ever, ever get yourself trapped in a room, right? And this is why. Hey everyone, and welcome to Life with a Sherry on Top. I'm your host, Sherry Hagan, and today I am joined by my husband, Kevin, again. Hey, baby.
Hello, love. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I got my first write-in letter today.
Oh, really?
I'm so excited.
They're like requesting something or?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
it's like the coolest thing ever. So,
All right.
so in the first episode, I had spoken about being a realtor.
Hmm.
And I'm sure it was just in passing because it wasn't what we were focused on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today, but just so everybody knows, this is not going to be a really boring real estate podcast that I personally have listened to, and I can't stand them. So, uh,
Coming from the best realtor around. There
thank
you
you.
go.
Thank you very much. So, first, I wanted to say that I do work as a full-time realtor with Coldwell Banker Schaumburg. I work in Chicago and the Chicagoland area, mostly northwest suburbs. Since I don't want this to be a super boring podcast about real estate, I thought maybe I'd share some stories, or more specifically, one story about why you come with me now on every appointment that I have.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There's funny stories. There's a million stories out there for realtors to tell. Believe me, we could all write a book. And I definitely want to get some of my office peeps in here to do a
hmm
podcast with me about like funny real estate stories. But this particular one is not funny at all. It was actually the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So I want to just talk about the risk of being a realtor and some of the things that you don't even think about.
Yeah, I think not anybody in the business, but anybody getting in the business takes that for granted.
For sure,
Yeah.
yeah. So, the first thing that happened was I was featured in the newspaper for I don't know what, but I was in the Daily Herald,
It's
and
top realtor of the year, I believe, if I
mm,
remember correctly.
no, that wasn't a thing for me. But thank you for.
Oh, top voted, I don't know,
Oh, it
person of the
was.
voted,
That's what it was.
the Herald thing.
Thank you, love. It was for being voted favorite realtor.
Yeah.
I think not top, but favorite
Same
realtor.
thing.
All right. Okay. So anyway, moving on. I was featured in the paper, and the somebody called me from the article that they read and asked if I would sell their mother's house. And she said the mother was in a home, she had power of attorney, and her two brothers were living in the house. So my first question was, do your brothers know you're selling the house?
Which is a great question because that's come up before. That hasn't been
Yeah,
always the case.
right. And she said, "Oh yeah, yeah, they're aware that we're selling the house." And I said, "Okay, sure, no problem. I'll go take a look." And I scheduled an appointment and went there, I don't know, a day or two later,
Mhm.
right? So, here in the suburbs of Chicago, there are kind of typical floor plans. There's split levels and raised ranches and regular ranches and et cetera, et cetera. So this one happened to be a raised ranch. So when you walk into a raised ranch home, typically you walk up cement steps to even get to the front door, and then you walk in and you're standing on a landing, and there's a half a flight of stairs going down and a half a
Mhm.
flight of stairs going up.
Mhm.
I rang the doorbell. I didn't knock on the door. I rang the doorbell, and as I was approaching the door, I realized the two brothers were screaming at each other. Like screaming at each other. And I was like, "Oh, no, this is not gonna be fun," you know? So I ring the doorbell, and then it's silent,
Hmm.
like crickets, and nobody answers the door. I'm like, "What the hell?"
Caught their attention.
So I knock on the door again, and brother number 1 comes to the door and, kind of sticks his head out of the door, but he doesn't open the door all the way, and he says, "Are you Sherry?" And I said, "I am Sherry." And he said, "Okay, come in." Now, then he opens the door, and I will tell you that every fiber of my being was telling me not to go into this
Mm,
house, and I did it anyway. So lesson learned there, like, I will always listen to my intuition,
mhm,
from now on. But, I proceeded to walk through the door, and, brother number 1 had let me in, and brother number 2 was standing at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at me from the basement, and
mhm,
typically they're finished basements. He was kinda leering at me,
mm,
but I I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I walked up the stairs, and brother number 1 followed me, which as I'm walking up the stairs, I'm thinking, "Something's not right," because you usually see at the top of the stairs, there's a doorway into the kitchen, and then to your left is the hallway for the bedrooms, and to your right is the living room and family or, I'm sorry, living room and dining room,
mhm.
and then there's from the dining room, there's another entrance into the
Back
kitchen.
to the kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to paint the picture for people who don't know.
Mhm,
So, so I walked upstairs and the house is a dump, but and I have to as a realtor, I have to try to find something nice to say, you know? So I walked up the stairs and I was like, something's weird. And then but I'm focused on, I have to try to say something nice.
find something positive. Yeah.
Right. So I turned to my right and walked into the living room. And then I turned to my left to walk into the dining room. And I saw the backyard and I was like, "Oh, thank God." Like, they took immaculate
Mm,
care of the outside of the house.
mhm,
So, I saw the backyard and I said to brother number 1, "Wow, like, you guys have a beautiful yard." And he started talking about how much he loves to do yard work and,
mm,
blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And I was thinking, "Oh, thank God I had found something to say that was
mhm,
nice." And now I walk into the kitchen and there's, you know, dishes piled up to the top of the stove. I mean, it's an
mm.
absolute pit.
Yeah.
But when I walked into the kitchen, I realized what was wrong, when I first came to the top of the stairs, and that was the entrance from the top of the stairs to the kitchen has been drywall.
Mm,
So there's only one way in and out of this kitchen. And as a realtor, and this is especially important for new realtors, you need to listen to this. Never, ever, ever be the first one up or down the stairs. Never, ever, ever get yourself trapped in a room,
mm,
right? And this is why. So, it just didn't even occur to me that there was no door there when I passed it the first time. I just thought something's not right,
mhm,
you know? So anyway, so I'm standing in the kitchen and I see dishes piled up and then I realize, oh shit, there's no door. And I turn around and brother number 2 has snuck up behind me
mm.
and is literally nose to nose with me and says, and I will tell you guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. So if you've got this on where other people can hear, especially children,
Mute for children.
mute for children. Yeah. So he's standing nose to nose with me and says, like my heart is racing as I tell this story.
Yeah, I
I can,
can see your face getting redder.
and my breathing is getting
Yeah,
heavier. So sorry about that. Oh, okay. I'm fine.
it's all good.
So,
We're
so,
here.
he's nose to nose with me and he says, and I quote, "Get the fuck out of my house, you cunt, before I kill you."
Yikes.
And it felt like all of the blood left my body. And I was thinking, okay, I have got a couple of different options here. One of which is I carry mace in my purse, which is on my arm, but he's gonna see me digging through my purse trying to find the mace,
Mhm,
right? So that's gonna further agitate him.
mhm.
And I thought, "Oh shit, this is how I'm gonna die." this
Mm.
is how I'm gonna die because
Jesus.
this lunatic is face to face with me, and brother number 1 is standing in the doorway, which is my only way in and out of this kitchen.
Right.
And I thought, maybe I could take on one of these guys. Not a chance I can take on 2. So, and by the way, that's me just being a me thinking that I'm still 20. I mean, I'm not. So I probably couldn't do either one. I couldn't take either one of them on, but in my head I can. So, anyway, so I took a half a step backwards and said, "I would love to leave your house, but you're blocking my only way out of here.
Mm.
So if you take a step backwards, I'm happy to leave." And he gets this, and the only way I can describe it is if you've watched The Grinch, the Christmas special,
Mhm.
and he gets that smile on his like that wicked smile on his face. That was this dude's smile.
Mm.
And he takes a half a step backwards, and it didn't go unnoticed that there was a block of knives on the counter back to where he was stepping
Mm.
back. But I thought it's
Well, he's
it's this or
moving aside,
nothing.
yeah.
It's this or nothing. So I start walking and I'm trying not to like run out of there, which
Right.
is what I want to do.
Sure.
But again, I feel like it's almost like a game for him,
Mhm.
you know? So I'm starting to walk, and brother number 1 gets out of the way of the doorway. And now I'm walking towards the stairs, and brother number 1 says, "Don't you want to see the rest of the house?" I'm like, "No,
I'll
I'm
catch it
good."
later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I went down the stairs outside and back to my car, and my hands are like shaking so badly.
Mm.
It was ridiculous, and I'm
I'm
trying to
sure.
find the keys to my car because this happened before the days of push button cars,
Right.
right? I drove the Lincoln MKZ,
Mhm.
and so I'm trying to find my keys, and my hands are shaking so badly, and I finally find them, but now my hands are shaking and I can't get the key in the
Mm.
ignition.
Mhm.
And as I'm trying to put the key in the ignition, the garage door is opening. And now it's like all slow motion again. And brother number 2 comes out of the garage and he's running at me like a lunatic with his hands like over his head like a windmill. Like
Mhm.
he's doing the windmill thing with his arms. It was nuts. And he was calling me every name in the book. And I thank God there was nobody behind me because I didn't even look.
Yeah.
When I got the key in the ignition, I just floored it, backed up, and then drove up the street and then pulled over.
To calm down.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then I was like,
Ugh.
"Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." So, I thought I had pulled myself together and went to the office. And I mean, I hadn't cried at that point. I was just like talking to myself in my head going, "You're fine. You're fine.
You made
Nothing
it.
happened.
Yeah.
You're fine." You know? All right. So I think I've pulled myself together and I go to the office and I'm still like shaking, but I'm trying not to.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to like pass myself off as nothing happened and everything's cool, And I walk
Mhm.
into the office and I said hello to the office manager and I kept walking and I got to my desk and there's kind of a pit of desks in the back of this office. And so, there's always people there that are kind of chit chatting.
Mhm.
And so I walked in and I put my purse down, and the girl next to me says, "Are you okay?" And she's like, and I obviously I didn't look okay,
Yeah.
you know? And then I just started bawling, and then everybody was like, "Oh my god, what's
Mm.
happening?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "I swear to God, I think I almost just got killed." And like it all just kind of hit me,
Mhm.
at once. So, um, then the sister calls and she says, "Oh, how did the appointment go?" And I said, "Well, one of your brothers threatened to kill me and looked very serious about it."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. My brother, whatever his name was, the other brother, so I just call him brother number 1 and 2, right? She said, "Brother number 1 told me that he's been on his medication and he's doing better." And I'm
Oh,
like,
jeez.
um,
That would have been a nice thing to know in advance.
"Yeah." So I said, "Well, I'm not taking this listing." And she started crying and she was like, "No, you have to take the listing. Can you please take the listing? We just need the house sold." And I said, "I can't I can't in good conscience put your house on the market and have people walk through and go through the same thing that I just went through."
Yeah,
You
if they're
know?
not gonna leave.
I can't do that to any other realtor
Yeah.
or any other person for that matter. So I said, and she's hysterically crying. And she's like, "We just need the house sold." And I said, "Okay, you know what? I'll sell it sight unseen. Nobody's allowed in. And you can get X amount of dollars for it."
Hmm,
And she agreed.
hmm.
So I sold the house in 2 days. It was crazy. And then I made you go with me
Yep.
to, was it the home inspection?
Inspection, yeah.
Yeah, the home
Mhm.
inspection.
'Cause they apparently for some reason, they never left the house. They were
The
always
brothers,
there, yeah.
right. The brothers didn't leave the house
So,
even though they were
even for the
supposed to.
inspect right,
Yeah,
even during the inspection.
yeah. So from your perspective, tell you, because I
Well,
was
obviously,
like,
I knew this whole situation going in because you came home and we talked about all of that, but, when we got there, I was, again, surprised that they were there, but brother number 2, who was the one who approached you in the kitchen, was down in the basement again.
right.
And I basically I'm not a bouncer or anything, but I can look like one if I need to. So, I stood at the top of those 5 steps or so and crossed my arms and just stared at him. So, he was the one I think that was the problem. The other brother 1 was seemed to be okay and respectful of you being there.
Yeah.
The brother number 2 was the one that caused the issue, so I kept an eye on him, and he sat there and smoked pot.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's all he did. So I was just like, "Okay, just hang there. You make a move and,
Right.
I'm 5 steps up. I can kick you in the chops pretty
Yeah.
easily." So, I was ready for anything after your story.
Yeah. I mean, of course, because because Kevin's with me, brother number 2 is on his best behavior and actually trying to have a conversation with you and
Mhm.
being all nice, and I was like,
Yeah, he asked me if I wanted to smoke with him.
"Oh, nice."
No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
That's great. So yeah, it was very scary. And so from that moment forward, because ultimately as a realtor, what you're doing is meeting strangers, usually
Mhm.
strangers,
Mhm.
especially when you first start out. And this
Mhm.
was, gosh, I don't know. I think I had been doing it maybe 2 years at this point. So it
Yeah.
wasn't, I mean, right now, all of my business is referrals,
Mhm.
but back then it was,
Yeah.
had to
You have to go
hustle.
work it. Yep.
Yeah. And so when you're meeting strangers, right? There are certain things that you can do as a realtor to try to protect yourself. One of which is using a program called Forewarn, and you can put in somebody's like name or phone number, and it will tell you, if they're found anywhere
Mm.
in with a criminal history
Oh,
or
that's
whatever.
I didn't know that was even there.
Oh yeah, I use it all the time now, but
Yeah, I hope so.
but even though I'm still going with you,
Mhm.
um,
Good to know.
I still look it up. And then, there's a couple of other things you can do. I try to meet my clients at the office before taking them out,
Mm.
and then try to get a copy of their driver's license.
Mhm.
And if they're squirrely about that, then you know something's up. There's just certain things that you have to do to protect yourself.
Mhm.
And I naively thought, because I'm a cop's daughter and I'm a cop's granddaughter and I'm a cop's niece and and nobody's going to mess with me. And then when I thought I was going to get killed, I was like, oh fuck, my dad is so pissed that this is how I die,
That's a
right?
great thing to go through your mind at the last minute,
Well, it's true though.
yeah.
I mean, I know I'm supposed to be thinking about you and
Yeah.
the kids, but but I was just like, wow, dad's going to be really pissed that this this is how I die.
Uh,
So, that's just a fun little story, uh,
yeah,
about
so fun.
yeah, about, how it is to be a realtor sometimes. But really, truly, most of the people that I work with are fantastic and obviously think the same of me. Otherwise, they wouldn't be giving me referrals.
Mhm.
So that's the fruits of all your labor when you're first starting out. So any new realtor listening in, you'll get there. Believe me, you will. You'll
Mhm.
get there. But thanks for listening, everybody. And especially a big shout out to the person who did write in because I so much appreciate it. If there's any other topics that you want to hear about, or I don't know, you just want to shoot me a note and say hello, I'd love it. Yeah, you can reach me at lifewithasherry@gmail.com. And Sherry is spelled Cheri. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.